I had a birthday and what I've learned in 7 decades. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm so happy that you're here. Well, as I stated, I had a birthday 2 days ago, May the 12th, and I turned 70 years old. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm 70. Well, I've learned a lot in 70 years, and I couldn't go over everything in detail or we would be here for 7 days with me still talking. So I just made some bullet points. I'm going to go through it like each decade, like 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and just give a brief synopsis and tell you what I learned at each decade. Now, since I can't go into a lot of detail due to time, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comment section and I'll be happy to expand on it. Before I get started, I hope you subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you here. Okay, 0 to 10, first decade. Well, you know what that's like. You go from being a baby and crawling to walking and just that kind of thing. It's kind of your formative years. But what I learned at the end of that decade, by the time I was 10, was the meaning of family and what a family was all about. I had a mother, a father, a sister, and a brother. I had grandparents on both sides, aunts and uncles, and lots of cousins. And we would get together many times for different occasions. And it was just such a joy to have that family unit around you all the time. So that was the greatest thing I learned, was all about what it meant to have a family. In addition to that, that was the foundation of my faith. We were raised strict Roman Catholic, and you go to church as a baby, so that's where I got my foundation of faith. 10 to 20. Well, I fell in love, I got engaged, I got married, and I had my own family. I had 2 children by the time I was 20 years old. And what I learned then was that I really didn't know anything. That's a lesson I learned. I didn't know anything, and I thought I did. But one of the greatest lessons I learned was that your dreams can come true. And having children had been my dream from the time I was a little girl and had all my baby dolls, and I had many. And to me, they were like my children, and that's all I ever wanted to be, was a mother. 20 to 30 brought a lot of mixed emotions. There was much joy, and there was much sorrow. I was not in a good marriage, and things got very turbulent, and it was difficult. And any of you that have been in that situation, you understand what I'm talking about and how difficult it can be when you're trying to make things work and you don't want to face the fact they're just not going to work. And then when you have children involved, that makes it so much more difficult and painful. That's when I experienced real struggles, and for the first time in my life, deep heartache. There was also some joy because I had my 3rd child at 24. So I was blessed with another child. I had my 3 children And that was such a joyful time for me. And what lesson did I learn? I learned that fairy tales don't always come true. You can be in the valley for a very long time at certain points in your life, and you're just way down deep in the valley. And it may take a long time before you reach that mountaintop again. 30 to 40. A lot went on from 30 to 40 for me. Again, there were joys and there were many sorrows. What I have found out is once heartache and sorrow come into your life and you experience it, it's going to continue throughout your life. And it may get worse. The sorrow's bigger. The heartache's bigger. It's all part of life. It's all part of lessons that we have to learn in order to grow in life. So in my 30 to 40 range, I got divorced from my first husband. We had been married 13 years. That was a very painful thing, especially because it was against my religion and my beliefs. I also lost my dad when I was 30 years old. That was a terrible loss for me. That was the first member of my immediate family that I had lost, and he was such a big part of my life. He was my world, and it devastated me for a long, long time. It really brought me down, and that heartache has never gone away, ever. But there were some joyful times too, because I got remarried. And like the saying goes, love is wonderful the second time around. It is. And we have been married for 39 years. It'll be 39 years in July. Also, I had 2 kids that graduated from high school before I turned 40. So that was a joyful time for them and me. What did I learn from my 30s to 40? That life without pain and sorrow is no life at all. Life is full of joy, but it's also full of sorrow. This is all part of our learning and growing experience that we have to have in life. We all have to go through it. 40 to 50, a lot of changes, a lot of big adjustments. That's when I went through empty nest. My children were leaving, going off to college, off on their own, and there I found myself in that empty nest. No noise, no children around, no kids coming over to hang out with my kids, no kids in the backyard playing basketball or getting in the pool or anything. Just dead silence. Some people go through empty nest okay. I was not one of those people. I just could barely function. We ended up moving out into the country, which I've never lived in the country in my life, and making those kind of changes because I had to get away from that quiet house and looking at those bedrooms that used to be occupied by my kids, and they weren't there anymore. Well, that move turned out to be a mistake, but again, it was a lesson learned. But what also happened from 40 to 50 is I became a grandparent. I was blessed with 2 grandchildren before I was 50 years old. And wow, what a joy that was. So what I learned was when one chapter closes, a new one opens. And it was a time for a new beginning. 50 to 60. We're getting up there. That was also a new beginning. I feel like I had a whole new life then. I had adjusted to the kids moving away. I then had 5 grandchildren, which was absolutely wonderful, who I was able to see on a daily basis. They all lived right there. 2 of them lived directly across the street from me, and the other 3 lived a mile away. We got to see them daily. We got to go to all their functions. We got to take them to football practice or soccer practice. We got to go to all their games and plays and functions. And it was just such a joyful time of life. Also during that decade from 50 to 60, we got a place on the river down in Urbana, Virginia. It was a park model camper, but it was right on the water. We had the most gorgeous view. We had a pontoon boat. Dave got to go fishing all the time. It was a resort area. It was called Bethpage Resort. It had pools and dancing and restaurants, and just living on the water like that every weekend and every other chance we got to go was absolutely wonderful. I also acquired a whole new level of faith. I had walked away from my Catholic upbringing and attending Catholic church and went to a non-denominational church. And wow, did I learn a lot. I learned the Bible. I learned what the Word of God said. I was no longer under rules and regulations and things that the church said and said were rules, when really they weren't God's rules. They were the church's rules. And opening that door grew my faith by leaps and bounds. It was absolutely wonderful. And what I learned in the decade 50 to 60, that an abundance of joy can erase past mistakes, sorrows, deep heartaches. Well, this is the last one. The decade of 60 to 70. Now this will be much longer because a lot more happens the older you get. 60 to 70 for me were the wisdom years. Great learning, great lessons, big changes, bigger changes. We had a big move from one state to another and left our family that we could see every single day for years and years and years. Now we were separated from them by about an 8-hour drive. Cancer entered our life. There were health challenges. And we became the caregivers of my mom. She had fallen and ended up in a nursing home in Pennsylvania. And so we brought her down here to South Carolina, and we were her caregivers and her only caregivers. My brother and sister lived in Pennsylvania. That brought on a lot of challenges, but also a lot of joy and a lot of fun times. We were ready for a change in our life, and that's why we made the move from Richmond, Virginia to Hilton Head, South Carolina. We wanted to be in an adult community and in warm weather, which a lot of people do when they get this age. Cancer, well, that was Dave. He was diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer, which brought on many surgeries, radiation, chemotherapy, just on and on for the past 6 years. But he's doing okay. He is doing great. During these wisdom years and the challenges that came with it, my faith deepened to an even deeper level. It was amazing. I grew so much spiritually, and I had developed such a true connection with God. I finally understood what it meant to have that connection, to know that I could talk to God at any time about anything, and that He would love me through it. It was also a time of coming into my own. I was really free to be me. You no longer waste time thinking about what other people think. You don't care. You don't care what other people say and what they think about you. You're truly free to be yourself, to try new things, things that you like to do, things that you want to do, and it just doesn't matter. You're free from guilt, past guilt. It goes away. Guilt haunts us for many, many years. Well, it did me. I suffered with guilt over anything and everything. I've been able to lay that aside. Guilt does not rule my life anymore. I have forgiven myself for my past mistakes. I have accepted myself for who I am. These were the years of new discoveries for me. Now, I've been a very late bloomer. I know that. I'm a naive person. I've led a sheltered life. So I'm kind of behind on things. But during this decade, I discovered so many new things. One of them was YouTube. I never watched YouTube in my life until I was 68 years old. Then I started a YouTube channel. Then I got into skincare. I never did skincare before. Then makeup. I didn't wear makeup. And now I do. Not much, I admit, not much. But I'm okay about putting lipstick on now, which I never was before. Or putting blush on, or whatever I want to do. I'm okay with it. It's been a decade of learning new things, having new experiences, doing things that I wouldn't have done before. I'm more adventurous. I am enjoying, embracing, and appreciating life like I never have before. I've learned what true and lasting beauty really is. That it's on the inside. It's not on the outside. It's not about the makeup and the clothes and the hair. They all make us look better and maybe feel better, but they really don't matter in the end, do they? It's what's in here that really matters. I developed a new sense of love for all things, all creation, and all people, like I didn't have before, when I didn't pay attention to the sound of birds singing and chirping in the morning. Now I hear it so loud and clear, and it just brings a smile to my face. I appreciate all the colors in the world, the colors of grass, flowers, trees, the darkness, the lightness, everything. I've learned you're never too old to learn. And another thing I learned is that the joys outweigh the sorrows in life. There have been times in my life when you couldn't have told me that. I've had a lot of sorrow and sadness and pain all throughout my life. Disappointments. So many things go on in our lives that we have to deal with, and you think it's never going to come to an end. Well, maybe it doesn't come to an end. However, the joys get to the point where they outweigh the sorrows. And the final thing I want to mention that I've learned, and it is so very valuable to me, and that is a much deeper sense of love. I'll have to explain a little bit about that. And it's a sensitive topic, and I'll share just a little bit on it. Because Dave was diagnosed 6 years ago with advanced prostate cancer and has metastatic cancer disease now, things changed. You know, when you go through that many surgeries and have to have so many parts of your body removed and all your hormones erased and gone, you can't have any testosterone anymore. If you want a chance to live, a chance to survive, you have to do what you have to do. Well, as we all know, a big part of loving each other, loving our partners, is intimacy, is a form of connecting in that way. I know you know what I mean. I don't want to say all the words. And that's just the way that I think men and women relate to each other. They love each other in many ways, but that's a very big part of it, the way you show your love or express your love, or the way you receive that love from your partner or your spouse. Well, when that has to come to an end to save your life, then what do you do? Well, I'll tell you what I've learned. There's a lot more to love than just that. A whole lot more. You learn to love on a different level in so many different ways. You then see and love truly and deeply everything about that person, their character, their personality, the way they show you love. You exchange kindness. You exchange gratitude for each other. It's amazing all the ways that we can love our partners, but we don't as the primary way, because God designed us in a way to connect with each other on a very intimate level. But when that can no longer be in your life, there's a whole new world of love. All the ways you can love somebody, all the ways you can share, the closeness it brings you, the level of friendship and partnership that I couldn't even have imagined had we not had to go through this experience. And I am so very grateful that I've had this opportunity to love Dave and have him love me back in those ways. Without his diagnosis, would we have ever learned that on that deep of a level? Everybody does eventually as you get older and older and older, or develop problems and things like that. But this happened to us, you know, at an early age. And it's been an experience and a gift that I will always be grateful for, because you feel that love to the depth of your core. So, as I said, many things change, and I know more changes are coming in a lot of ways as I now venture into my 70s and that decade of 70 to 80. Well, I've taken myself all the way up to 70 now, and I'm going to leave you with an inside beauty tip to sum it all up. My inside beauty tip is, so what is the greatest lesson I have learned in 70 years on this earth? There's not just one. There are many. I listed many of them. To put it in a nutshell, just to still be here at 70 is a wonderful blessing and gift. Life really is precious, and every moment really does count, especially at this age. I'm looking forward to this new chapter. I don't know what it's going to bring, but I can tell you I will appreciate it, whether there's ups or downs or good or bad or sorrow or joy, whatever it is, because I know I will learn and grow from each and every experience. I will remain grateful in all things, and I will continue to live life with a gusto. I am ready for the new journey that I'm going to embark on now, and I thank God for the opportunity to have it. Thank you so much for being here today. I am so grateful, and I really appreciate it. Well, until we meet again, this is the old girl signing out. See ya!